Hi, I'm really excited about today and this particular session, this segment of our video project, God, I Have a Question or Two. I've always been fascinated with the French salons. They would gather behind the doors of brothels and they would have men and women plot the revolution. They would create culture in essence, or they really believed they could change the world. And that idea, gathering people from divergent views, has always fascinated me. And I really believe that creativity thrives in diverse views. And so I have some of the most fascinating human beings I've ever known gathered around these tables. They do all sorts of different things, and I'm thrilled to have a multidisciplinary panel help me grapple with these questions. I'm thankful that you're here today. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, and so I think one of the ways I would like to start is to talk about these questions. And one of the things I thought early on in life was that these questions were dragons to be slain. And that I had even been taught in my religious upbringing that these were sins, that doubt was a sin, that depression, there's a sin in your life or you wouldn't be depressed. And I've come to realize as I've grown older and I've acquired gray hairs that there is something to be said for these different universal questions or topics not to be sin at all, but pathways to growth. And I really firmly believe now, as I've struggled my own struggles with doubt, with depression, with every one of these, we all struggle, that they have become pathways to growth. And as I've grown older, I've started to get that wisdom that comes from the lashes of suffering on my back. And so I don't want to grapple with these questions just by myself. And so to have these great people who have an entrepreneur, an artist, a business coach, a mentor, a wife and a mom, and a grandmom. I have an author, a literary strategist, a PhD who now is specializing in finance, and a dentist who works with Thai refugees. And I've asked them to come and help me grapple with these questions. And I have really no idea what they're going to say. And so I'm as eager as you are to hear what they have to say. So I thought I would start this way. I'll never forget, I was in the study at 6:30 in the morning, and as an artist, 6:30 in the morning is like ungodly. It's almost impossible for me to believe that I would get up that early together with a group of men and my pastor and talk about Bible study things and disciplines. And as we were talking one morning, I'll never forget that we were going around and just talking about the subject of doubt. And I finally just thought, I'm going to blurt this out because I trust these guys. And I just said, well, man, have you ever doubted heaven? Like on your pillow when you were laying there all alone? Have you ever doubted that there was a heaven? That this stuff was even true? And I'll never forget, there was just this heavy quiet. And all the men were waiting to see what the pastor was going to say. And the pastor finally just said, well, no, Randy, I've never doubted that. And so I could just feel my face flush with embarrassment. And after a few moments, it was like I had not even asked the question, and we just went on to another subject. And so I think that's one of the impetus for this video project is, wow, as I grew older and started reading all of these things by some of the great philosophers, and they were talking that doubt is a pathway to growth, and that healthy doubt causes us to ask healthy questions, which helps us to become healthy people. And when we repress things, it's horrible. We push it all down. And so this video is about questions, right? So I've asked each one of you to address a question. But first, I would like to ask you just to jump in, anyone. Did you grow up this way, similar to me, where questions were frowned upon? Or have you been allowed by school, by your family, by society? Have you been encouraged to ask questions? Anybody? What would you say about that?
I was a counselor at a Christian camp, and I nearly got kicked out because I asked a question in front of children. And that was not something you're supposed to do. You don't ever question the Bible in front of children. So I was 14. So I stopped asking questions, basically, in public.
Yeah,
Good
I
point.
think society teaches us to have answers, not questions. But as you said, learning only comes from questions. So I don't think we ask enough questions. I think we accept too much as fact, and it's not. So I truly appreciate the benefit of asking questions.
Great. Anyone else?
I think there's a lot of fear like surrounding asking questions. Like recently there was a Christian band and everyone's attacking them because they're asking questions and they're kind of analyzing their faith and fleshing out their beliefs, and people are afraid that they're going to land somewhere wrong. And I think that I'm going to talk later about fear, but I just think if we can just confront the fear, like, okay, what if they do land in a wrong place? Like, why does that affect me? Why does them being wrong intimidate what I believe? I think it's because if somebody questions, then I might have to question too, and I think people are afraid of that.
And who's going to say it's
what they'll
wrong
find.
anyway? I mean,
Yeah.
who would be the judge of whether it's wrong?
Yeah.
I think Randy too. I grew up in a home, in an environment, in a setting in which particularly questions around faith and God, and nobody asked. Nobody asked. Everybody seemed to have an answer, but nobody was asking the questions. And you just learn to kind of just be quiet about it. I think as I've gotten older, I've seen more and more the people I'm drawn to, the people that I want to be with, the people older than me that are successful in business, and I've tried to pattern certain things of it. They ask a lot more questions than they give answers. They're really smart. They know a lot of stuff, but they don't try to, impress you with that. They ask questions to learn more. And so I find myself asking questions a lot more than I did when I was 10, 12, 35.
That's awesome. And don't you find that, I'm sorry,
No.
don't you find that the most interesting older people, the most interesting senior adults are those that ask questions? The ones that walk down the hall and we're running away as fast as we can because we know we're going to get caught for 30 minutes while they talk about themselves. They tend to be bores, but I just wonder if questions aren't the real fountain of youth, because the older people that I meet that I'm so fascinated with, they continually ask questions, and I love that.
Yeah.
Yes, Jordan?
I was going to say not just questions about God and faith, but I grew up in a culture that was pretty conservative, but there was more of an emphasis on maintaining normalcy and that things are good rather than discussing some of the dynamics that are going on that are under the surface. So there's a desire to repress those things rather than leave room for potential grace and forgiveness on both ends. So as a kid, I'm kind of seeing a story play out that makes a lot of sense and seems fine, but there's a lot of stuff going on, and there's no room to ask kind of those questions of like, hey, are we on the same page? Are we in a healthy place right now? And I think that's really shortcutting and not really giving people the opportunity to be gracious with each other.
Yeah. And I think as I've grown older, I'm coming to grips with this statement. I don't have all the answers, but I sure do have a lot of questions. And so I'm thankful for questions, and I'm thankful that you're here to help us grapple with these questions.